Hello, my name is Paul Priestley. Welcome to Art Tutorials Online. Now today we're going to be looking at using charcoal and chalk and we're going to mix them together. It's going to get a bit messy, but it's all for the sake of art. So let's not hang around, let's make a start. Come on!
So here we are with a single piece of charcoal and a big chunk of white chalk. It's actually borrowed from my grandson, but there we go. Now we're also using some very cheap grey sugar paper. It's called sugar paper in England. What it's called in your country, I have no idea. But you can use very cheap paper. You don't need to use really expensive stuff. Okay, when you're using your charcoal, as we're doing here, look, practice trying to press on really hard, then press on lighter and lighter and lighter to get the various light tones. Here I'm doing the same with the chalk, pressing on really hard and then going over the grey so I can create a distinction between the two. Now I'm going to rub it with my finger. People use paper and all sorts of other instruments for doing this with, but you've got to use your fingers. Get in there. This is art you're creating. So we're going to go over the top again with the charcoal. You see I'm blending it in over the top, pressing on quite hard, then getting lighter. Do the same with the chalk. The reason I'm doing this twice is because the density of the material gives a much greater effect. You see here now when I'm rubbing it, you see we can get very subtle variations of tone going from light through to dark. And it looks brilliant, you see? So you've got to use it twice. Now, watch here. I'm just going to go around, draw an oval shape. We're just going to draw a simple pot. Simple oval shape. Brilliant idea coming up. It's actually wonderful, this idea. You'll be amazed. Watch this. You see here I'm using my wrist like a compass. Okay, brilliant. But what about the other side of the pot? It's so difficult. This is the idea. Watch. Oh, look at this. You see, we've turned the pot round. It's now upside down, so I can do it the same this side. Look, nice curve this side. Put it back the right way. Oh, brilliant, you see. So we've got both sides virtually the same. It's an easy way of doing it. So we're going to imagine light coming from one direction. Do you see the idea? The light's coming in this side. So this side of the pot is going to be very dark. So I'm pressing on really hard with the charcoal and then gradually loosening the tone as I go across. You see, very dark down this side of the pot. Okay, pressing on quite hard, really bold and strong. Go for it. You see, really bold and strong. But notice I'm not scribbling any old way. I'm scribbling so I'm following the shape and form of the pot. Do you see the idea? So I'm imagining where the light is coming from and I'm not doing that bit. Then I'm going to lighten this area here, you see. Darken the inside of the pot there, look, pressing on really hard and then pressing on lighter as I work my way across. You see, quite simple. Now this is finger time in a second. Here, look, to blend all this in once I've tidied it up. You see, blend it in with your finger. Soften the edges. You must soften the edges. You don't want very big, strong, sharp edges where you want a change of tone. So soften the edge. You see what I'm doing here? Softening that edge. Blending in, softening it. Now we're going to need 2 layers of this to make this look really good. Here we're going to use the chalk. Same thing, same idea. Pressing on really hard along the edge nearest the light. You see? And then blending it into the grey, actually going over the grey. You'll see me do that in a moment. But we're going to do just this bit here to keep the chalk nice and clean before we start going over the charcoal. There we go. And then we're going to go over the charcoal. You see what I've done there? There we go. See? Just to do that. Now, out comes the finger again and blend it in. You see? Oh, you just get the feel for this as well as anything else. You can't do that if you're using some implement or bits of paper. You've got to feel it, you see, if you're going to be an artist. There we go. See, blending that in. That's looking good. Really good. Now, we're going back with the charcoal again. We'll go around the edges now. We're just going to tidy this up and we're going to add more black because we want this to look even darker and stronger. So I'm pressing on really hard again now with the charcoal. See how dark I'm making it. Now, I can do this because I've already got charcoal underneath. You see the idea? And I can start putting a few details in now, like underneath the lip of the lid there. So I'm pressing on really hard here, you see, really hard up here as well. There we go. Press on really, really strongly and then blend it out there a little bit lighter. Now, we do exactly the same with the chalk in a second, but we're just going to blend and soften the edges. I don't know whether I've mentioned that before, but you've got to blend and soften edges. If you don't soften the edges, it doesn't work. So keep blending the edges. There we go. Look at this, you see? It's now beginning to look like something. Now, working with a chalk, we do the same thing with a chalk. You see, we can get a denser tone by working the chalk on top. You notice now I'm dragging the chalk over parts of the grey as well, you see? But this area here is really light now, you see? Really light. And then I'll come to blend that again in a moment. You notice I have to keep blowing off the dust, but you've got to do that. Just make sure nobody's on the receiving end of it, that's all. Anyway, I'm just going to go round the edge there with a little bit of white, you see. Just this little detail. You see how it makes the pot look so much more interesting. It's wonderful. So really press on nice and hard. Blend again to keep those nice half tones. A half tone is simply the difference between a dark tone and a light tone. It's halfway between, so it's called a half tone. Now you'll notice now I'm going to put some subtle reflections from the ground onto the pot, you see. So these areas are slightly lighter. They're not very dark. They're slightly light, and we just blend them in. So you just get these very subtle reflections onto the pot, which look really quite effective. Do the similar sort of thing up here. You see, blend it in with the chalk. There we go. Just blend over that, and then again we'll have to use a finger again in a moment. But just putting a little blocks on here, you see, just subtle, working it on top. You won't be able to go very light because you're working on top of charcoal, but blend again, you see. Feel the drawing. That's what you've got to do. Feel the drawings. Blend it in a little bit there. That's looking good. Now, just put a few more highlights on there. Those ones may be a bit strong. I may cover those in a minute. We'll see how we go. Okay. But you'll notice here, again, soft, subtle marks that I'm making. You keep doing lots of soft, subtle marks. That's what we're aiming to do. Okay. Now, we're just going to put, just soften those down a little bit, put a little bit of a shadow underneath the pot so it looks as though it's sitting on something. Just a nice sort of oval shape. The same thing, press on hard with the charcoal, and as you get to the edge, soften it down a little bit. But guess what? Use your finger to blend the edges again, you see? Make it nice and soft. You see how it's beginning to look? Oh, it's going to look wonderful, your drawing, when you finish this. Mind you, you'll have a dirty finger, but then that's what you do if you're an artist. Right, we're just going to put some very subtle highlights on now. You notice this? Just subtle reflections on there. It's beginning to look good. Okay, just touch up some of the darker tones in here as well. Just around there. Oh, yes, a few little dark tones here. Right, I hope your drawing has looked good. I hope you really enjoyed it and learnt a lot about charcoal and chalk.
Thank you for watching. I hope you've really enjoyed the first tutorial in my Drawing with Charcoal and Chalk series. If you have, then please give the video a like. If you want to subscribe to the video, then please click the little black bell at the same time. That's wonderful. Then you get updates of all my latest videos. If you want to support the making of these videos, then please check out my Patreon channel, where you'll find lots of interesting rewards in return for your patronage. Thank you for watching. Goodbye!